Since Strand came out in the beginning of Lightfall, it has been a powerhouse in PvE and in some cases PvP. In today's video, I'm going to show you two Strand Warlock builds that can really destroy all PvE content. I've used both these builds in Grandmaster content and they could definitely hold up, but only with some changes which I will touch on later in the video. This video and the next two videos in the following weeks will be builds involving the newest Strand aspects for Warlock, Titan, and Hunter that recently came out for Season the Deep and Lightfall. So if you guys like these Strand builds and want to see more Strand builds from me for the other classes, make sure to stay tuned for these videos. And alright, let's get into the builds. So for the exotic for the first Strand Warlock build, we're going to be using Swarmers. Basically what Swarmers do is destroying a tangle spawns a threadling. Your threadlings unravel targets that they damage. This exotic, in my opinion, is really good for this build because destroying a tangle spawns a threadling and you're going to be using a ton of threadlings, especially if you're building fully into threadlings. That makes it really good. And also your threadlings unravel targets, which makes it do more damage to targets. And there's a big gameplay loop that you can build here with this exotic. Talking about the threadlings, let's get into the subclass. For a subclass, we are on Brute Weaver here. We only have one super here. It's called Storm. With one fragment that we will touch on very soon here. It is a very good super and it outmatches a lot of supers in the game. For the abilities, we're just using Healing Rift. You can use Empower Rift if you want, but I just want the healing because there is not a lot of healing on Strand in general. So I just want the Healing Rift. I have the Burst Glide. You can choose whatever glide you really want. We only have one melee here. It's the Arcane Needle. Basically what this does, you have three of them, 3 charges, and you throw it at a target. It will track the target and it will unravel them as well. You can throw all 3 melees one after another, really in quick succession. So if you really want to do that, you can, but it does take a while to charge, so use them wisely. For the grenade, we are using the Threadling Grenade. We're going to fully build in Threadlings with this build, so we are using the Threadling Grenade. For the aspects, we are using Mind-Spun Invocation. What this does is it enhances your grenades depending on the grenade you're using. So for Grapple Grenade, when you get a Grapple Melee, it will spawn 3 Threadlings. For the Shackle Grenade, basically when you consume the grenade, it will give you a buff called Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds. When you get kills on enemies, everything around it in the vicinity will get suspended. And for the Threadling Grenade, when you consume it, it will instantly perch 5 Threadlings onto you, which once you damage enemies, they will fly out and start attacking enemies. For the second aspect, we are using the new aspect that just came out in Season the Deep. This is the Wanderer. Basically what this does is tingles that you throw attached at targets and detonate into a suspending burst. Threadling Final Blows create a tingle as well. Within this build, you can really choose both the aspects of Weaver's Call or the Wanderer. Weaver's Call, by the way, when you cast your Rift, it will spawn 3 Threadlings and also deploy any Threadlings that you have on you perched. So for example, if you consume your Threadling Grenade, you spawn 8 Threadlings that track out enemies. But since the Wanderer is new, we're going to be trying to build around it. In my opinion, the Wanderer is probably the weakest out of the 3 aspects that recently came out, but this aspect will come in handy later on because you'll see a gameplay loop once we start going into the mods and the full build. And this is because of the second part of the aspect, the Threadling Final Blows create a tingle. This will build into our mods and into our armor charge and also into our fragments. For the fragments, we are using Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. This also gives you plus 10 intellect. Since we're going to be constantly spawning Threadlings, this is really good in my opinion because it just does more damage and it'll also travel further to get the enemies that are farther away. For the second fragment, we're using Thread of Warding. Picking up an overpower grants Woven Mail. Woven Mail is a 60% damage reduction, and I feel like this is just really good in high-end PvE and also anywhere in PvE. For our third fragment, we're using Thread of Rebirth. Strand Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create a Threadling. This also just gives us another way to create a Threadling within the build. For the fourth fragment, we got Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates a grenade energy. This is a must-have for this build in my opinion, since you're going to be doing damage anyway, and also the unraveling will keep doing damage, and your weapons obviously will be doing damage. So you're going to build that grenade energy over time. For the artifact mods for this build, there's only 4 that I see could be good for this build in general. The 2 main ones I would say that are must-have is Improved Unraveling. Increases the amount of damage dealt by unraveling target, and also Strand Soldier. Your Strand weapons gain unraveling rounds whenever you gain Woven Mail while your Strand subclass is equipped. For Strand Soldier, by the way, the Woven Mail timer has to go all the way down to 0 for you to get another round of unraveling rounds. And sadly, this is only 5 seconds, but still, it's a good way to get the unraveling rounds going. For the other 2 mods, we got Conductive Cosmic Needle. Targets affected by Strand debuffs take increased damage from Arc and Void abilities. This is good in my opinion because if you put just unraveling on a random target or a boss, you could throw like a Nova Bomb or a Thunder Crash and you would do more damage. Technicolor Siphon also. Basically what this does is you have arc and strand siphon mods available, so then you can make orbs off of arc and strand weapons. So for the mods, let's go into the helmet. For the helmet, we have heavy ammo finder, increases the drop chance of a heavy ammo on kill. Got harmonic siphon, rapid strand final blows that create and overpower. We also have Ashes Assets, gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. This does not work if you consume the threatening grenade, but if you throw it at an enemy and it gets a kill, it will count. For the gauntlets, we are using impact induction, causing damage with the melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown. Since we have 3 melee attacks, we're going to be using a decent amount. So whenever we use it, it will decrease our grenade cooldown by 20% and give us a little bump to grenade energy. We're also using grenade kickstart. So basically how this works is whenever your grenade is fully expended, it will give you grenade energy back depending on how many armor charges you have. This is really good in my opinion, because with this and the threat of generation, you're going to be getting your grenade back a lot with this build to get as many threadlings as you can. We also have firepower. Your grenade final blows create an overpower. This also just plays into the build in the armor charges system in general. And this also does not work if you consume the grenade, but if you throw it and the threadlings get a kill, it will spawn an overpower. For the chest piece, we just have concussive dampener and charge it up. Charge up is just to increase our armor charge by 1 so we can get 4 stacks. And concussive dampener is just for resist. For the legs, we have recuperation. Replenishes health each time you pick up an orb of power. This is another way to get more health and healing with this build, so that you don't have to fully rely on your healing rift. We also have stacks and stacks. When you pick up an orb of power, you will gain additional stack of armor charge. So every time you pick up an orb of power, it will give you 2 stacks of armor charges. And also we have elemental charge. This is new for this season. What it does is collecting a fire sprite, onyx trace, stasis shard, or void breach, or destroying a tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. So this is not every time when you collect the objects or destroy the objects, but it is pretty often. And the reason I'm using these 2 mods together is so whenever we get an armor charge from this mod, it will give us 2 stacks of armor charge, along with the orbs giving us 2 stacks of armor charge. So we're gonna have 4 stacks of armor charge basically the whole time. For the class item, we have Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an overpower. So when you do use your class ability for healing, you will also get an overpower on the next weapon kill you get. We also have Bomber. Reduces your grenade cooldown when using your class ability. So if you're just really close to your grenade getting fully charged, this is just another way to get grenade energy. Along with Outreach, reduces your melee cooldown when using your class ability. Again, same thing. If you're really close to one of your melee charges, you can just pop your class ability and get your melee back. For the stats of this build, you just want to build into 2 main ones. The first one is resilience, and the second one is discipline. And the third one would probably be recovery. You can build into strength if you want, but the highest I would go would probably be a 50. For the stats of this build that I have 100 resil, 100 discipline, 50 recovery. For the weapons of this first build, you can really use whatever you really want. I just recommend having a strand weapon though. The weapon I choose is Rufus's Fury. Another setup that I've used in the past is Inagi's Burden, any SMG or any weapon of your choice in the energy slot, and then machine gun called Circular Logic. This machine gun is really good in my opinion, especially because it's adaptive frame, which is the best in my opinion. And also with Envious Assassin and Demolitionist, you're gonna get your mag increase with other weapons when you're using them. And also when you're using this weapon, you're gonna get Demolitionist, which keeps giving you grenade energy. So with Circular Logic and Rufus's Fury, or any strand weapon in general, you'll spawn threadlings off of that weapon. And I feel like those are just really good in my opinion. Again, strand weapons just keep coming out more and more. We got a shotgun now, we got a sword, etc. So you really use whatever you guys really want and are comfortable with. So for the gameplay loop of this build, you want to consume your threadling grenade, start getting kills with your strand weapon to spawn more threadlings from that strand weapon. Once your threadling gets 1 kill, it will spawn a tangle. The tangle will then have a cooldown of 15 seconds, but you can have a choice. You can either shoot the tangle or you can throw the tangle. When you throw it at an enemy, it will track more aggressively, and also it will suspend everything around it and also do damage. And from that, it will also spawn 2 threadlings. Or you can shoot it and maybe get 2 armor charges, but also spawn 2 threadlings. And also when playing and just killing a lot of things with your threadlings, it will randomly spawn tangles, and then threadlings will randomly kill the tangles, so that will give you armor charges just randomly. And then you just do damage with your weapons to get your grenade energy from threat of generation, and also pick up any orbs you have, destroy tangles to get armor charges. This all will feed back into your grenade, so you can keep consuming it or throw it, and keep creating tangles and keep throwing the tangles. And from the gameplay in the background, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with all this and how many threadlings you can generate in general. Alright, let's move on to the second build. So for the second build of this video, we are using the Necrotic Grips. Basically what this does is grasp the Devour, damaging combatants poison them, then increasing damage over time. Defeating a poison combatant also spreads the condition. It also provides a moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat, of all weapons of sorrow. The reason we're using this exotic is because we're going to be using that poison a lot with this build, and whenever the poison spreads to enemies around them, it will also make the enemies immobilized, which you'll see with the aspects we're going to talk about later. Speaking of the aspects, let's go into the subclass. For the super, we are using Needle Storm again because it's the only super. We are using Healing Rift again for the class ability. This is just to get more healing from the build. We're also using Burst Glide. Like we said before, we're going to be using the Arcane Needle because it's the only melee we have so far. But with this in necrotic grips, you can throw an Arcane Needle at a target. It will poison them and also unravel them. And the poison will keep proccing the unraveling. So it's going to keep doing damage from 2 sources. For the grenade, we are going to be using the Shackle Grenade. This is just so we suspend enemies, and also we can stun unstoppable champions with this. For the aspects, we're using Mind Splint Invocation. Your Grapple, Shackle Grenade, and Threading Grenade have enhanced functionality. For this build, we're going to be using the Shackle Grenade one. So when you hold your Shackle Grenade, you will get a Waver's Trance buff, which then once you get a kill, it will suspend everything around that target. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this when I was talking about the necrotic grips. For the other aspect, we're using the Wanderer. The only reason I'm using this and not the Weaver's Call is because Threadlings without unraveling to them with Swarmers, it just feels worse in my opinion. But obviously with the Fragment, Thread of Evolution, which we will get into in a second, it does make them do more damage, but again, the unraveling is really nice to have with Swarmers. So for this build, we're going to be using the Wanderer. When you throw a Tangle, it will suspend everything around it, and also Threadlings have a chance to create a Tangle. We're not going to focus on that. So we're mainly going to get our Tangles from our melees. For the Fragments, we got Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. The only reason we're using this is because the super with this fragment does more damage. We have Thread of Generation doing damage, generates grenade energy. With this build, you're going to have a lot of damage. You're going to have unraveling and poisoning at the same time, so you're going to have a lot of damage that goes into this. For the third fragment, we're using Thread of Mind. Defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. This is a lot of class ability energy when you defeat a target, and we're always going to be suspending targets with this build, so this is really good in my opinion, and you'll basically have your Healing Rift up all the time. For the fourth fragment, we got Thread of Warding. Picking up an overpower grants Woven Mail. This is just really good for high-end PvE content and also low-end, and this also gives you a 60% damage reduction to all sources. For the mods of this build, let's go into the helmet. For the first mod on the helmet, we have Hands On. Gain bonus super energy on melee kills. Since we're going to be using our melee a decent amount with this build and the necrotic grips, we're going to get a lot of melee kills, so we're going to get a super back a lot. We're also using Kinetic Siphon, and you'll see in a second why we're using this. Rapid kinetic weapon final blows, creating overpower. We're also using heavy ammo finder. You can swap this out for another siphon mod if you really like, but I just have this on just so if we're using any heavy, I just have heavy ammo dropping. For the first mod on the gauntlets, we're going to be using Grenade Kickstart. When you consume your grenade, when it's fully expended, you will gain grenade energy. This is also depending on how many armor charges you have. For the second mod on the arms, we have Momentum Transfer. Causing damage with a grenade reduces your melee cooldown, and also we have Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. I have both these just to build into each other, so whenever I throw a melee, I will get grenade energy. Whenever I throw a grenade, it will give me melee energy. For the chest piece, I have Charged Up and Concussive Dampener. Concussive Dampener just for the resist, and Charged Up just for the extra stack of armor charge, which can now go up to 4. For the boots, we're using Invigoration. Reduces melee cooldown each time you pick up an overpower. There's going to be a lot of overpowers on the ground with this build, so you're going to get melee energy from that. We're also using Elemental Charge. Collecting a Fire Spray, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, or Void Breach, or destroying a Tangle has an escalating chance to give you armor charge. With this build, you're going to do a lot of AoE, so whenever a Tangle is in that AoE, it will get destroyed and you will get armor charges from that, which is not all the time, but it's like every other Tangle. That's the only reason why we're using this, and also you can shoot the Tangles or throw them to suspend targets. For the third mod, we have Recuperation. Replenishes health each time you pick up an overpower. Again, there will be a lot of orbs on the ground, so this is just another source of healing. For the bond, we have Bomber. Reduces grenade cooldown whenever you use your class ability. We also have Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an overpower. And then we have Outreach. Reduces your melee cooldown when using your class ability. So whenever we pop our class ability, we will get melee energy and grenade energy. And also whenever we get any weapon kill, it will spawn an overpower at the enemy's location. For the stats of this build, you want to build into Resilience, Discipline, and strength. The reason you don't need to build into recovery is because of the thread of mind. Defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. This is a lot already, and you're going to be suspending a lot of targets, so you do not need to build into recovery. For the weapons of this build, we're going to be using Striga. This is the main weapon we're going to be using because it's the weapon Sorrow, so whenever we get a kill with necrotic grips, it will spread the condition of poison. And this, when they're suspended, it will just keep poisoning enemies and keep ticking at them, so we don't have to worry about them anymore. For the special and the heavy, you can really choose whatever special heavy you really like to use, and that might benefit this build in general. Again, artifact mods, there's 4 of them that you can really use at this build. The 2 main ones would be Strand Soldier and Improved Unraveling, and the other 2 is Conductive Cosmic Needle and Technicolor Siphon. For the gameplay loop of this build, basically you want to hold your grenade, consume it. You want to start shooting with your Striga, get a kill. Everything around it will get suspended and poisoned, and it will keep spreading the condition as long as there's enemies around. Also, when people are suspended, you can throw your melee to get everything unraveled, and it will keep spreading the unravel and the poison and the suspending, and you'll see in the background gameplay what I mean by that. And whenever you see a tangle, either destroy it for the armor charge, or you can throw it to suspend more enemies if you do not have your grenade. Out of the 2 builds, I think the first one's probably my favorite, just because of the threadlings, and I love seeing so many threadlings and so much unraveling just flying around. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more videos, there will be more Strand videos coming up, but for Titan and Hunter, so make sure to stay tuned for those videos coming up in the next following weeks. And also, if you like this kind of content, make sure to go check out my other content on my YouTube channel. I have builds for Titans, and I have 1 Warlock arc build so far, but this is the first build in Season Deep, so I hope you guys enjoy with the new mods and everything. But yes, a lot more content is coming out, guys, so make sure to stay tuned. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.